stopped on the side of the road actually, put some more clothes on and drank some grappa from the team car. Like I was going to piss going down the clock.
Hey podcast listener, you're listening to the Semi-Pro Cycling Podcast, the weekly podcast where we discuss all the issues that cyclists talk about. Whether you're out training, commuting, or just riding around, sit down and listen in, because we're about to begin.
I got something to say, man.
Yo-ho! Welcome to episode 7 of the Semi-Pro Cycling Podcast, where we believe that only a semi-pro cyclist will wear mountain bike shoes with pride. If you stick around to the end of the show, I'll fill you in on the quote from the top of the show and let you know who was pissed in the 88 Giro. So, getting to the nuts and bolts, today we're going to talk about the things that distinguish great riders from others. I'm talking mindset and motivation. It's a commonly held belief that it's talent alone that makes someone great. So today I'm presenting the argument that it's their mindset that makes the difference and how you can tap into that to make your own performance better. Specifically, using your mind as an untapped energy source that can result in increased performance. How? By enhancing your mind. Using your mind as an internal energy force is often overlooked as it's very abstract. The truth is, though, that your mind defines all aspects of behavior, such as how you think, feel, and interact with others. In a sport like cycling, the right mindset and high motivation are both prerequisites to getting the best out of yourself in any given situation. So whether it's training, racing, or even rest, there's a mindset that goes along with spending time off the bike as well. Any attempts to boost your mind need to be molded around specific circumstances. So let's take a look at a couple of ways that you can enhance your mind. Number 1 is enhancing motivation. And number 2 is developing an incremental mindset if you don't already have one. So if we look at number 1, harnessing your motivation, how can we motivate ourselves when we're in the middle of a tough training session or a tough part of the race and we don't even want to get up in the morning to go training in the first place? First, let's talk about why you race, what drives you, because cycling is a sport where we talk in years rather than months. It takes a lot of time on the bike, it takes a lot of Ks in the legs, a lot of pushing your physical limits, and a lot of time not drinking beer on Friday and Saturday nights. So what keeps you coming back? Where do you get your hunger from? What is your motivation and where does it come from? Let's first take a look at what motivation is. Motivation is thought to be a combination of the drive within us to achieve our aims and our outside factors which affect it. With this in mind, motivation has the following 2 forms: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic can be split into tangible rewards, so physical rewards such as medals and money, and intangible rewards such as praise, recognition, and acknowledgements. Extrinsic motivation revolves around rewards external to the process of participation, while internally motivated people ride because of the process. That is, they ride because they find cycling interesting and enjoyable without being preoccupied by external factors. Intrinsic motivation is closely linked to fundamental motivation to learn and acquire new skills. The building blocks or psychological needs that underlie intrinsic motivation is the need to determine one's behavior, the need to feel competent, the need to feel relatedness, and the need to have a meaningful relationship with other people. The main difference between intrinsic motivation and self-motivation, which is an interesting distinction. Intrinsic motivation is about enjoyment and immersion in an activity, whereas self-motivation can involve an internal pressure to perform, which is part of personality. Which are you? If you're internally motivated, which one are you? Because I know that my cycling relates more to self-motivation rather than intrinsic motivation. I know that I'm doing this, as in riding a bike, because I'm driven to perform, to do something, to get my satisfaction in this world. This is why I do it. Potentially, even without a bike, I would be picking something to do the exact same thing. So the bike for me in some ways is a tool in that regard, as much as just having a whole stack of fun just riding on a Sunday with your mates or whenever. I just really enjoy riding a bike anyway. But intrinsic motivation comes with a complete absence of any internal or external pressure to perform well. Most people can probably recall a time when they were just riding with their mates and they were just absolutely loving it. They weren't thinking about, am I in a certain zone, is my heart rate at a certain beats per minute or whatever. They were just absolutely loving it. They were flying, they were climbing hills the best, everyone is chopping and changing. Well, that's a big part why I really enjoy time on the bike and time on the bike with people that I want to hang out with. This state is actually called flow. Now that is something totally different, but it's linked into intrinsic motivation. As an exercise, it's helpful to know these two to kind of get a picture of where you fit into the whole spectrum of motivation as to why you do cycling in the first place. You could align this up to all other areas of your life, but because this is a cycling show, we're talking about cycling here. It'll give you a good idea as far as the rewards that you can give yourself after you achieve something. And whether it is just in the middle of the bike ride that you're appreciating it and that's a reward enough, or it's at the end of a season or at a national championship or whatever it is, and then you go out and reward yourself. So I've got a motivational technique here that we can use as a performance gain in training and competition. First, I just want to look at competition. And the idea is that you can run through this in a competition mindset, so thinking about the competition, why you race, etc. And then you can do it again when you're thinking about training. Something to be aware of, though, is that motivation does change over time. So asking yourself these questions at certain points in the future can help realign your motivation to your end game. Just to be aware of this so that you're not just setting up this technique, and then if you find it helpful, then you're using it, but then you find its effectiveness goes down over time. Perhaps looking again and re-asking the questions as to why you're doing it and getting that picture of the motivation behind why you're doing it again will be helpful. So if you ask yourself these questions, starting with number 1, why do you race? What do you like about it? What makes you passionate about racing? What are the main reasons you participate in races? Just take some time to write these down. Write everything you can down in any form at all. Number 2, let's get a little bit more specific. When you're racing, what sounds, words, images, and thoughts, what is it specifically that can get you excited and actually arouse your attention specifically for racing? And number 3, try and identify the situations in races where you really struggle. Write down some situations where you have motivational problems. So an example for me, sometimes on hills, the second last lap of mountain bike races, and around 30 Ks and probably around 60 Ks into mountain bike marathons, I tend to have a lull in motivation. Now, if you look at the situation list and then you look at your cue words, so the answers from number 2, write down a cue word that can match each particular situation. So the idea is that you can call up these triggers at times when you're struggling throughout a race. So having this arsenal will hopefully drive you to get over any physical or mental barriers that you encounter. I think this is an interesting way to approach it, but I wouldn't go putting together too many scenarios and too many different words. First, I would maybe start with 1, 2 at the most, and working from there. It's going to be hard, like we spoke about in the music podcast, it's going to be hard to remember too many situations and too many different words linked to that situation. And the 80-20 of this is picking the one that's the most crucial, the last hill climb, the last lap, getting dropped and getting back onto the bunch so you can make an attack later on. Picking that situation and then picking the words or the triggers that will get you over the hurdle when you find yourself in trouble. Also, just a quick note that this isn't a miracle, so it's not going to make your race any easier, but it will help you get through the situation more effectively. So again, do this one for racing and then repeat the process for training. I know I struggled to get up on cold mornings and I find it hard to get going on ergo days. So if I dig into my motivation to get me through these, then I get over those hurdles and then I usually find that I'm away, no problems. So if we move on now to number 2, mindset, it's what you believe about your mind's plasticity. That's the key here. Now, if you don't know what plasticity is, it's basically the brain's ability to change. So the brain's ability to adapt and grow to new situations over time. Your mind has the ability to hold you from reaching your potential from the way you approach your cycling as a whole. What if you could change your mindset so that the desire to train and the enjoyment of cycling and the ability to cope effectively with setbacks, especially for those who've been turned off the joy of cycling? Well, Carol S. Dweck proposes just that. Tell me if you fit into one of these two categories developed by Dweck when it relates directly to cycling. The first one is a fixed mindset, where you believe your abilities are fixed and you only have a certain amount of talent to ride a bike, and then that's it. So you can learn new things, but your ability cannot be changed. You have a certain amount of talent and that's that. So this mindset turns people away from growing because they're more worried about what they have rather than doing better. And their attention will only be piqued when you want to know if you're right. And that's it. The second one is the growth mindset, where people believe they can change their ability over time. Through effort and learning, ability can be cultivated and developed throughout your life. Things can be developed, increased through effort and persistence and structuring. So, what mindset do you bring to cycling? Now, in some ways, just talking about cycling as a whole is quite difficult, because if you want to segment this, it's going to be more accurate. So, if you believe you're better at hills, for example, so what mindset do you bring to cycling? I know the mindset I bring to cycling is a growth mindset. But then if I compare it to other things that I do, so let's just talk about something outside of cycling, me learning French. I found out after reading this material that I actually bring a fixed mindset to learning French. So do you bring a fixed mindset to any part of your cycling, not just cycling as a whole? Because that's where you're going to make the gains when I talk about how to move from a fixed mindset to a growth one. Do you see everything in your training as making incremental improvements over time? Because if you do, then it's growth. You have a growth mindset. I'm going to get into how to change from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So whichever one you believe best describes your different approaches in cycling, still stay with me, because I believe that if you possess a growth mindset for cycling, you may have a fixed mindset in other areas. So how can you change from fixed to growth? It's actually pretty simple, but you don't know the answer until you know it. And here it is. Awareness. So looking at the task in a different way, here Dweck is talking about the results that fixed mindset students got from participating in a study seminar that did just that.
They learned that every time they pushed out of their comfort zone, stretched themselves to learn something new, their brains formed new connections, and over time they could increase their intellectual ability.
So just to take what she was talking about and move it across to cycling, just by the very fact that you are aware that you have a fixed mindset, or you have an awareness that you can use every single bit of your training to grow, incrementally grow and change your ability over time, in itself means that you're actually changing the way that you approach cycling. It's quite simple in that essence, but you don't know. I didn't know until I read this material, and then I just had a light bulb moment where, of course, yes, fixed mindset, that's exactly how I'm approaching French. I don't believe that I'm doing it. I don't put my hand up in class because I'm going to get something wrong, or, I'm afraid I'm not thinking about things in the way that I should be. This is going to help me. There is no right or wrong. This is going to help me. And the same with cycling, asking questions of experienced riders, or tagging on the experienced bunch, or anything that's going to stretch you a little bit is going to help you. And just understanding that and sticking with it while you're in the middle of it, that's the stuff that's going to make the changes, the incremental changes over a time period, that your ability will in the end change. I truly believe that. In conclusion, if we can wrap this up, how do we do it? If we're looking to enhance mind as a performance tool, then harnessing the motivation, specifically through that motivation activity, where at specific points during a race or training can give us a quick boost in physical output if we're matching them to motivational words or sayings right in the middle, in the moment. And checking and adjusting mindset from fixed to growth can change the entire approach that you have to training and cycling as a whole, and open up more opportunities to get better at the sport you love. I really hope you get something out of that. Mindset is something that I'm right into. So there definitely is going to be more of this stuff on the podcast. The more that I read and I adapt to cycling, the more that you're going to find out about this. Alrighty, so this is the tech hacks and products section. And today I want to talk about Camelback Podium bottles. These bitters are the business. I discovered them a couple of years ago. On a whim, I thought they would be good, so I saw them for sale. I got them super cheap, $4 or $5 a bottle, but I bought 10 because I was so committed, and I knew as soon as I got it that they were the business. So they've got a plastic in them that means that it doesn't smell from the start, so you don't have to start washing out the bottles. The nozzle on the bottle is unique to Camelback as far as it's just a squirt or a suck system. There's a lock at the top so you can lock it on and off, but as far as getting it in, there's no pulling out the end bit and then tapping it on your ass or whatever to close it to get it back in. I've found that it's been really convenient. I don't think I can go back to another nozzle. The size of the nozzle itself is nice to suck on. It's a good rubber nozzle. I really enjoy these Bittens. I think they're the best on the market, and I don't think I'll ever go back. I've been around Camelback ever since the mid-90s when they came out with their first one. I rebought a Camelback when I was starting to do mountain bike marathons again, but I realised soon that was a bit of overkill. I was only wearing it at some point when I didn't have anyone to hand me bottles halfway through the race. That's a bit of a luxury sometimes. But as far as using a Bitten, everyone's going to use a Bitten when they're on a bike, and this, to me, you just can't go past it. So I don't think I'm going to go back unless someone else is going to give me 100 free ones from somewhere else. My recommendation is get out and try one. You can find them pretty cheap. You can find them on sales. I had Scott on mine. The colour didn't match my bike. It was a bit of a bummer, but the bottle absolutely made up the difference. Go out and get them. Give it a try and let me know if it makes a meaningful difference to you. Have you used one and does it make one to you? Do you use them now and are they the business? Are you into them as much as I am? I hope you are. So let's get to that quote from the top of the show, and it's Alan Piper telling a story about his 88 Euro ride. It's pretty funny. It's got a whole bunch of different things in there. I'm actually going to put it at the end of this episode so you can have a listen to it. It shows Alan Piper in a different light. I don't know about you, but every time I see him now, he's so cool, he's so calm, he's so collected. You know, he's Mr. Manager, he's Mr. Experience. But check out this story. It's interesting. I bet you when he gets on the piss, he's a total laugh. I think you'll really enjoy it. And that's it. So till next week, get on your bike and enjoy the pain cave or the hurt box, whichever one you're into.
Well, right, I'll tell you about it. I went to the gym, right, I was really, really tired, and after about a week, I started to go down, and I was getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And Brooking had the pink jersey in the Giro, and it was through a mountain stage, and it was snowing and snowing and snowing, and I was like miles behind, like we could have come into the dark. Me and my papa, we were by ourselves, everything was out of sight. Just the second team car stayed behind us, just to make sure we were alright. Second last climb, we drank some grappa. Stopped on the side of the road actually, put some more clothes on and drank some grappa from the team car. Like I was like piss going on the climb. Got to the bottom and I couldn't help but pop because it taken all my energy away, and I was like, I'm trying to go up the other side with all these clothes on. Anyway, up the Marmalade, down the other side, and up to the finish, and I was like totally wiped out, like Brooke had lost the lead because he got hunger flat during the last climb and lost the lead to Amsterdam and lost the Giro as well. But the next day we started up the other side of the mountain in the snow as well, so I had heaps of clothes on. Down the other side it was so cold. There was a Colombian who was just like shaking like this, And I had this spare hat and I gave it to him to put on his head, and he had no arm warmers on. I had clothes on like I was like a Michelin man, We got to the bottom down the other side, and I've just got on the back of the last group, and I could see up the front there was two Panasonic riders. I thought, what are those clowns doing up there? We don't want to ride fast. I mean, if we've only got 40 k's to the finish, it doesn't matter. And I looked again, and I could see these guys. I thought, well, I better get up there. There must be something going on. So I moved slowly up to the front, and then Brooke was off the back. He was like still wiped out from the day before, but he was second or third overall, so we had to bring him back, Valanka and Papa were riding on the front, and like they weren't making any distance. So I got from Brooke in my wheel, just gave it all the effort I had, and we got on. Just caught the back of the bunches, they started to go faster, then they slowed down. Got a muesli bar in my pocket. It's one of these ones from the team. They're really sticky, Anyway, I started chewing this muesli bar. I've got 3 false teeth here, I got them knocked out playing football when I was 13. I got an elbow in the mouth and just took them straight out. And anyway, I'm chewing this muesli bar. Anyway, someone's attacked and the pace went up and I couldn't swallow it, so I spat them out and spat my teeth out. This is like really panic station. I dream about losing my cloth too. There's only 3 of them, and it's pretty funny, you know. So I hit the skids. I've done a U-turn. I've got 2 lanes of team cars and police motorbikes coming straight for me. Straight into these cars, you know. I just got to the teeth from the Carrera team car.
Don't eat anymore.
And then I turned around, I thought, right, back to the base. So I take it up, post comes along beside me. What are you doing back here? I lost my teeth. And he didn't say anything. He said, well, get back up into the base. He said, get back up there. And apparently, like, he was, I think he was angry, but they laughed all the way to the finish. The mechanic in the back laying out of the car and everything. So anyway, I was really embarrassed. And I told my other 2 teammates, Peter Winnan and Balaga, Winnan, he does a lot of yoga and meditation, so he's really centered and he's really quiet. And he saw me without my teeth and he was like really falling off his bike. Got to the finish and I didn't know what to do. And the problem was we got snowed in that night. The mountains were snowed in, so they cancelled the next day. So we were in the hotel all the day. We had 3 meals in the same hotel, and my papa really laughs. He laughs all the time.
Was laughing because he couldn't eat.
20 people on the table, you know. My papa would be laughing and like eating a banana and like.
And then he said, Alan said on the science table, maybe I asked Peter Post I can go home tomorrow. I said, yeah, but that will be difficult because we have the pink jersey.
No, we just
lost it, but it was only 30 seconds, like that. So he thought we can do maybe something the last 3 days. And then I said to the other guys, Alan has to stay here, don't laugh anymore on the table. And then in the morning, in the evening we come on the table and nobody was laughing. And he was eating, it was pretty quiet, Alan. And then at the last moment, the dessert is coming, the dessert is coming, and Alan took a banana, and I saw it, I said, oh, not possible. And I take the banana, and everybody's looking, but nobody's laughing. And he took the banana and shit like that. We're going in, and everybody started laughing. And then he decided, I asked to go home. He asked Post and he
But the thing is, my papa was laughing, so then when he laughed, I laughed more, and then my mouth was wide open.
Was there like that with the banana?
And the whole restaurant was laughing, the waitresses and all the other teams, and it was like, oh God, get rid of this. I've never told this, you guys are the first ones that know this.